Hello, today I want to talk about the importance of backgrounds. This is how I start my school year with art journaling, because if you don't talk about how to create backgrounds and layers within your art journal pages, you're going to get a white sheet of paper with 3 sentences written in Sharpie, a couple of hearts, and maybe a picture glued from a magazine. We really want students to be creating layers and being really engaged in the art process. So I'm just pulling out my journal that I give demos in for my students, and it has a lot of different background techniques that I show them. And then I'm going to demo 2 different ones. So this one is just using up extra paint. So whenever there's paint left on a palette, I hate throwing acrylic paint out. It's so expensive. I tell them, just open up to a blank page in your art journal and just brush it on. Then that way, when you're getting ready to start another journal page, you're not staring at a blank canvas here. You're actually staring at some paint already there, which can inspire you to continue going on in this page. Okay, I talk about ripped paper. So ripping up newspaper, book pages, dictionary pages, pages from magazines, anything with textures, and gluing that down first. So this one has ripped up newspaper, watercolor, colored pencil, and then collage on the top. And a lot of these are not finished journal pages, they're just backgrounds. So this one's intuitive painting. So I have a little bit of some ripped up book pages in here, and then I just have some Sharpie lines, and then I just started adding some paint in. And really didn't have a plan, just kind of wanted to see what would happen. This one is silhouetting. I talk with students about creating a background, and then they can cut out pieces of paper and tape them down and brush the white paint on or black paint. And I do talk to them about contrast between having a really colorful background and then maybe doing your silhouetting in grayscale. This is jelly printing. We do a couple of days where we do jelly printed backgrounds so that students just have a whole bunch of backgrounds started. I show them a bunch of different jelly printing techniques, and I just let them go at it. So they have these really nice backgrounds to get started with. It makes their pages a little bit quicker because you've already have the background done. Okay, we talk about, have different spray inks. So we'll talk about spray inks or acrylic inks. And then this is just a page I gave a stenciling demo on how to use different stenciling techniques. So I talk about the spray inks here. And then we also talk about using ink pads and then just painting onto stencils. And then I'm not sure if you can see the zigzags there, but that is with a light molding paste, and so it is 3-dimensional when you run your finger over the top of it. All right, so that's just a couple of the techniques that I give students. We also talk about watercolors and different techniques we can use with watercolors to use as backgrounds as well. I'm going to show you 2 different techniques coming up. I'm going to show you a demo on paint scraping. It's one of my how to make a background demo that I give my students. I just put some protectors underneath behind my pages that I'm working on so I don't get paint all over the place. I'm going to put a little bit of paint down on my palette. This is just one of the foam trays. I think I ordered these on School Specialty. Super cheap. I just let the paint dry right on this. I tell the students, just put it on the drying rack, don't worry about it. And then since acrylic paint is permanent, they can just keep putting paint over the top of this. It isn't going to affect the paint next time. Another option I have for palettes, I love either the Prismacolor colored pencils containers, or this is a Blick Studio color pencil container. And when the pencils, you're done using them, I just use the inside of these as palettes as well. Just let the paint dry on them. They go on the paint rack. The next day, I stick them in the bin of all of the used palettes. Or I've also used scrap cardboard. And these are great because you can just throw them out. I hate putting paint down the sink. Nothing worse than clogged sinks in the art room. So I'm just going to use this foam tray for now because I have it out. I'm going to put some dots down, some paint blobs. This is a really great technique to use also for when you have some paint left over on your palette. I don't like wasting paint. We all know how expensive acrylic paint is, and it's even getting more expensive right now. So I tell my students we don't leave paint on the palettes. We could pick it up with a scraper and scrape it onto our pages. So now we have a background for our next page that we're doing. It's always okay to have paint on all of your pages. It gives you a starting point. So these are just cardboard. I tell the students they're spreaders, but these are just mat board, or you can use cardboard that I just cut up on the paper cutter, and I have huge cardboard boxes of these. These were just from our photo department. They get rid of the scrap mat board. I take them, I cut them down for students. And then we pick up the paint with the paint scraper. And I'll just scrape this right onto the background. Now I like this technique, and I give this one at the beginning of the year because this is a really quick way to get a background going. Super quick. And sometimes our students just need they need a page to go a little bit quicker. Maybe they've been out sick. They missed a day for a field trip. So this will give them a really quick starting point. So I like to go right off the edge of the page. So I have my pages all painted. So if they have extra paint left on their palette at the end of class, just tell them, go grab a spreader. Spread it on your next page. Doesn't matter if you don't know what your page is yet. At least you're not starting with a blank canvas. I'm going to add a little bit of turquoise in there. I just like splotches of turquoise. Okay, and then you would just let this dry. That's it. And because you're scraping the paint on there, it's not going on very thick. So this dries really quick and students can get started. Gluing stuff down onto their pages. Maybe they want to start their writing next. They can write it right on top of this. All right, quick, easy way to get a background down. And I will pull these out. I always save those in a pile as well so students can keep reusing them. And that's it. Now they're ready to get started on the rest of their page. The next technique I'd like to show you is one that I show my students at the beginning of the year. I show them how to make papers look antiqued or vintage in yellowing. I love using old and yellow papers, but let's be realistic. It's not always available to everybody. And, you know, you might happen upon some vintage papers at some point and then they're used up and they're gone. So this is such an easy thing to do. So you can use what you have in your classroom. So these are just dictionary pages. I've got some sheet music, some drawing paper, all white paper here. This is some Braille paper. I'm going to show you how to make these look vintage. So here's some dried examples. What I have here. These, I love the way the sheet music looks with the yellowing. And this, so there's two different ways I'm going to show you. This one is tea staining, and then this one is coffee staining. Some of these look like they have, you know, coffee spilled on them or dripped. So it all depends on how you want to paint the coffee onto it. You can also paint it right on and use it as watercolor, which is really fun look. And then these are just papers that were white, and I just painted them straight up with coffee, and I just let them dry so that they have this yellowing look to them. So you can use the coffee and the tea in a couple different ways. So first, I just have in here, I just have some warm water, and I just put a black tea in here. I just let it steep. So now I have some tea. And then the second one here was some warm water that I put a little bit of this instant espresso, and you can use any of the instant espressos. This is just the one I found. I like to make it really rich so that it has a ton of color in it. You can always add more water if you want it to be thinned out. And then I'm just gonna use a paintbrush and just paint it on. So I'll start with, this is a page from the back of the dictionary. So there's two different ways. Sometimes I just have my students, you can just paint it on like this, or I have them just take the tea bag and wring it out here a little bit and just go right in there with the tea bag and paint it right on. I know you can't see it very well. I know that once it dries, it does have a little bit more of a yellow effect to it. And then I'm just going to take this and put it aside to let it dry before I grab another sheet of paper. So I'm gonna do another one here with tea. This one's so easy because the tea bag essentially becomes your paintbrush. Now, I would say that the tea has more of a subtle color to it. It's not as noticeable. It definitely yellows, but the coffee is going to give you a really rich brown color. So it really depends on your preference. I have a lot of students that like to antique drawing papers and then put them through the typewriter and type on them, which is really neat. Then I'll show you what the coffee looks like. So I'll use my paintbrush for the coffee. It's got a little bit, it has a little bit more of brown undertones rather than the yellow of the tea. Also smells delicious. And the nice thing is once the coffee cools off, and I'll keep it and I'll use it for a couple days. You know, I'll have a canister behind my desk for the students if they want to grab it. And after, like, I don't cover it so it doesn't get moldy or anything. I just let it sit there and start to evaporate. And here's a piece of drawing paper. You know, if you want to just drip it on, you can do, so it looks like coffee stained paper, which is really fun. This will take a little bit to dry. Set this one aside. Piece of sheet music. And I also like to just draw lines on it. Just paint, different mark making. Let that dry. You can rip these up and use them to collage for your background. It's just a regular sheet of drawing paper. So I wanted to show this to you so you could be resourceful with what you have. You just have white drawing paper and you want it to look like old antique paper, it's worth going out and buying the $3 container of espresso and making it yourself. Now that the papers are dried, I just want to show you what they look like. All dried out here. These ones actually went on pretty even. Here's some of the ones with the coffee designs on them. These are some of the tea stained papers. Oh, they definitely have a different look to them. I think I like the tea staining, feels more antiqued, but I do like the way the coffee looks as well. They have different looks. This one looks like we spilled coffee on it. But if you see the difference in the color here, you can tell that this one's browned. So it does a really nice job. And that's the rest of them. All right, let me show you how I've used them in my art journal as well. I always love using these stained papers. So I've got some back here, some braille paper that I've antiqued. You can see it here as well. Here's another background. I just really like the way that they look. I guess I must use them a lot more than I thought. This is graph paper that I did some tea staining on. And this one as well, that's that same graph paper. There's some more of the braille paper. Here's another piece in here. I guess it's a running theme. So the other really fun thing that I tell my students too is you can take these in and stick them right through the typewriter and type onto them, which I really like the way that looks as well. So if you use the pieces like this that are one solid color, it does make it look like a really old note or letter.